Hi everyone. So my review today is focusing on The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This is Toni Morrison's first book. It was published in 1970 and I picked it up as my read for Black History Month. I had been hearing a fair amount of buzz about it on BookTube and decided, since it was her first book and I had never read a Toni Morrison, that this one was probably a good place to start. It is also a relatively short book, just barely over 200 pages, but it packs a really good punch. And for that reason, I feel like I'm going to have a hard time sort of summing up my feelings on the book. The story focuses mostly on a young girl named Piccola. It might be Piccola, it might be Piccola. Either way, I said it Piccola when I was reading the story. But she is, I believe, 11 years old, and she is a young black girl, and she is growing up very poor in the early 1940s in the US. Her story is told to us through other people, so the book actually opens with two sisters, and you think that the book might be about them, even though you know it's not, but they end up talking about this girl who comes to stay with them, and that sort of launches into this following of Piccola and the people around her without Piccola herself ever telling her own story, because she is so meek. Piccola has such a harsh life that it almost seems like it's better told from an outside perspective rather than what she's feeling. Piccola's biggest wish is that instead of her dark brown eyes, she wishes she had blue eyes because she feels that she would be beautiful. She does not want to be who she is because she feels all that pressure from society and people telling her and thinking how ugly she is, also her family life and how unattentive her parents are. The thing about her parents is we learn their backstories, so we feel a little sympathetic to them, but at the same time, you see the sort of casualness with which they don't deal with their children and their children's problems. Her parents are extremely unattentive. Her father is a drunk. Her mother is still with this drunk, but is trying to be the breadwinner of the family, so she's very busy, but she's also, they're all very self-centered. And it just seems like if someone had took a little bit more notice in Piccola, then things would have been a bit better. So as I said, it is a very hard read, not only in the material that it covers, but also sort of in the way that it's written. It does feel a bit choppy at times. When I was reading it, I actually thought I might have benefited from reading this book with a group, or dare I say in a classroom, just because it would have helped me see maybe some bigger pictures that I was missing and help explain to me some of the stuff that Toni Morrison might have been trying to put into the novel that I was just completely missing because I tend not to get super deeply involved in the stories that I'm reading, and this definitely seemed like one where I needed to read it slowly, really take it in, and really think about what I was reading. It also gets to you because it's just so sad and depressing, and you feel for Piccola, but at the same time it feels like Morrison wanted us to sort of understand the situation and the way people are brought up, especially during that time before the Civil Rights Movement and sort of the history of Black culture in America, see where they had come from and how that made them end up where they were in living a poor life, day to day, just downtrodden by all of the pressures, and a lot of this being put on this one little 11-year-old girl who is then, to top it all off, sexually abused by her father. The fact that this happens is given away right at the beginning of the novel. It's within the first couple of sentences, so that's not really a spoiler. But as you get farther along in the story, you're working your way up to that point, and then just to see the passivity in which people, is that even a word? Passivity? In which people respond to what happened to her. It made me so angry. Ugh. And this is why I have such a hard time putting what I think about this all together. There's so much happening with so many different characters, but it all really comes back to the life of this little girl and how sad it really is. I decided to go with 4 out of 5 stars for this book, not necessarily because I really enjoyed it, but because it made me think. It was a hard read, and I did really like it at times, but the fact that I had to sort of go through this range of emotions and really think about where Morrison was coming from versus what I was understanding, I think that makes it a 4 out of 5 for me. And I do wish that I had been able to read this in a group setting or a more academic setting and maybe gotten even more out of it than I actually have. If you guys have read The Bluest Eye, let me know what you think. Maybe if you've read other Morrisons, maybe some of your impressions of those versus what I got from here. It seems like a lot of her books are very intense and really make you think. If you have any questions, obviously, put them in the comments down below as well. As always, all of our links are in the doobly-doo. Check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later.